Welcome to Martha Runs the World, a podcast with a new take on running, fitness, and all things health-oriented. I'm Martha Hughes, your host, and each week I present a new topic that is of interest to all runners. Hi, and welcome to episode 304 of Martha Runs the World. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. I appreciate it every single week that you listen, that you join me on this running adventure. This week is kind of special. I have an author here that's joining me. Brad Fawley wrote the running novel, The Frontrunner. It's a terrific book. I thoroughly enjoyed reading it. Very exciting, very well written, great storyline, and I'm going to be talking about it with him. I will have a complete book review in next week's episode. I didn't want to put the review in the same episode that I do the interview. That would be kind of tacky. So I'll do a review of the book in next week's episode. But here is my interview with Brad Fawley. Will you welcome to the program? He's a runner, writer, lawyer, and inventor. Brad Fawley. Hi, Brad. How are you?
Hi, Martha. I'm great. How are you?
Very well. Thank you so much for being on the show. Yeah, it's a great honor. I loved your book, and we'll talk all about that. But first, I want to ask you, how's your running these days?
It's pretty good. Around COVID time, I focused more on writing my book and some other things. So I cut back from competing. But my wife's a runner, I'm a runner, and we try to get out at least 4 days a week, maybe 5, and we do, 4 or 5 miles. Maybe go for a long bike ride, but I've stayed in shape and I have dreams of getting back into competition. So that'll come soon, I'm sure.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Has your book changed your running in any way, or is it pretty much the same?
That's a great question. I don't think so. The book was kind of a personal exploration of what might have been in my running if I had pursued a different path than I did as an adult, and it was more of a reflection of that than trying to figure out how to be a better runner. Or it's not about, as you know, having read it, it's not about how to run. It's about why to run and what that can do for your life.
Right, exactly. So you ran in school, is that right?
I did. I started in 7th grade and I ran through junior high and high school and then in college. And then after college, I continued for a few years to compete on a kind of pretty serious basis. But then grad school and life overwhelmed me. And while I still ran, wasn't able to, I think, see what my limits were. And then, when I got into my 30s and 40s, I just stayed in shape. And I had a little resurgence in my 50s and really went for it as a kind of a master's runner and got back in pretty good shape. And then, and like I said, when COVID came, I kind of dialed it back. So that's 6 decades of history there for you.
Well, that happens a lot when life gets in the way. We change things. So, what were your favorite distances in school?
The mile's always been my favorite race, and it really didn't start running 1,500 meters until my senior year in college, when we started shifting from the English system to metric. I was kind of a miler, 5,000 meter. Were my wheelhouse. I ran a few marathons. I enjoyed those quite a bit. Well, some I didn't enjoy so much, but a few of them I did. But yeah, pretty much the mile is my favorite race.
Yeah, so you really enjoyed the track races the best then.
I love track. Track was the best. I just loved the elegance of, especially in the mile, 4 laps, 4 times around the track, and being able to carve up that time into discrete pieces, and each piece of that race and every race, and I go into this a little bit in the book, has a particular challenge, and it is so predictable. And cross country is great too, but every course is different. There's mud, there's hills, there's whatever, and same thing with road racing.
So that leads into my next question. When did you decide to write your book?
I decided to write my book during COVID. I've always written. I'm a lawyer by profession, so I write every day, and I've always done creative writing. But around COVID, I was thinking about the fact that there really are no epic running movies that are non-fictional. I mean, Chariots of Fire, I think, comes pretty close, although it's a true story. As far as the epicness of it, the music, the running along the seashore, the fantastic races, and then set back in a different era. And I thought there really needs to be an amazing movie with, and I had these visions of people running across the Serengeti and into the blazing sun and, across the desert, and these fantastic track meets and thousands of people screaming and people falling and everything. So I thought, okay, I'm going to write a screenplay. I'm going to write the epic running movie. My wife's an actress, a very good actress, and so that world of making movies and creativity in that realm is part of our day-to-day life. So I wrote a screenplay, and she looked at the script and she said, "This is great. The running scenes are fantastic, but where are the characters?" And I didn't know anything about writing screenplays, but I showed it to another screenplay writer who's a quite a professional, renowned person, and he also loved the story, but he and I had refined it by then to put the characters in. And he suggested that in Hollywood, they always change his screenplays. And the movie that ends up being made is really nothing like what he started off writing about. And that was one of his biggest frustrations. So I thought to myself, hey, why don't I turn this into a novel? If the novel gets published, it will be more difficult for anyone to change the story radically. And that was my thinking. So I started to write the novel, and I had this terrific outline because I had the screenplay already. And working from that was the joy of my life. It really was. I didn't realize how much writing that novel would excite me and just drove me. I mean, I didn't know anything about screenplay writing, but I felt that I knew a little bit about creative writing and getting into the heads of the characters and what they were thinking about, what was motivating them, and then beginning to have different characters in the book interact in different ways and stitch the whole thing together was just so much fun. I just loved it. So I wrote the novel.
That is very cool. I love it. It's a great read. It's just your descriptions are very, very, very well written. I enjoyed it very much.
Well, thank you.
And I think in the when this comes out in the episode after this one, I'll review the book in detail. Yeah. So how much of the book relied on your past running history?
Um, yeah, I think quite a bit. The main protagonist, Russ Clayton, who's a young man, is modeled after me until he until he qualifies for the Olympics and does some amazing things. But there's a lot of his relationship with his father. There's a lot of I have a son and a daughter, and there's a lot of myself in both Russ and his father, Chuck Clayton. There's also a good bit of me, and Doug, who is Russ's first coach. There's and certainly Brad Coy, who Russ sequesters himself in the desert to chase his dreams.
Mhm.
So I drew a lot on those relationships, and then a lot of the running scenes are drawn directly from races that I was in my life that stand out. Races I would love to rerun myself, and you can always do better in your own brain. But um, so that was fun to kind of relive those moments. There was there's a cross country race featured at one point where Russ is in the lead of the pack. He's running as the front runner, and he's coming up a long ridge, and his coach is at the top of the ridge waiting for him. And that entire race is very similar to a big race I was in at one point in my college career. But it wasn't the coach standing at the top of the rise, it was my mom, which was kind of a weird thing because it was a place on this golf course where there weren't any spectators, and somehow she had found herself in this remote place, and we had our eyes met. We didn't say anything. She didn't shout and yell and cheer me on. It was just this, I'll never forget it. It was this very poignant moment where, and she was a huge supporter. My parents are both great supporters of my running, came to all the meets and everything. But so that's drawn from that experience. And then a lot of the other races, even back to junior high, some of the specifics are all drawn from that.
That's what makes a lot of it so real, is that they came from something that you remember. Yeah. What is a great writing environment for you? Do you write well at either location? I know you live on both coasts, but do you need specific kind of place to write?
Coffee.
Correct answer.
Basically, I'm not one of those people that you'll find in a Starbucks with a laptop. So I don't like noise and people around. I need a quiet space, a comfortable chair, my laptop, and a cup of coffee. And I mean, I think in my life, I've learned I might not be the most talented person in things that I try, but I can outwork a lot of people. And I've learned that in my professional career, and it's carried over. So, I'm the kind of person who, my wife has to drag me out of the chair and say, stand up, walk around, go for a run, get out of that chair. Cause I could be there 8, 10, 12 hours sometimes working on something. I get that involved in it. But I like it quiet.
Yeah, yeah. So now you don't run everything on the track. Where do you like to run? Where are your favorite places to run?
Great question. When we're in California, our apartment is near the Strand, which is in LA.
Okay.
So either along the beach, low tide is a lot of fun, or it's a bike path that runs up and down the coast. I never get tired of that. There's always so many interesting people and things to see, um, and it's flat, and I do prefer that.
Mhm.
So when I'm in Vermont, I either there are a few trails along the rivers that I enjoy, dirt roads, and um, and I love going to the track. I do still love going to the track and doing intervals and measuring and timing and all that. Even though one of the lessons in my book is smash the watch, um, that's a tough habit for me to break.
Well, I think it's a tough habit for any runner to break. I don't like running without my watch because I tend to do intervals, and you kind of need the watch for that. So it's kind of hard for me not to look at my watch every couple minutes.
Right?
Yeah.
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 But,
Go ahead.
well, but imagine if you could smash the watch and figure out what your limitations are without it. If you could truly push yourself and you wouldn't know, you wouldn't be able to measure yourself. That's one of the fantasy scenes, I think, in the book where we talk about Brad Coy, who was once one of the fastest marathoners on the planet. And then no, I'm not going to give any spoilers away, but some events happened and he sequestered himself in the desert alone, trying to find what that limit was. And the book talks about him breaking world records, running across the sand with no one to witness it, and no clock on him, but knowing he's going faster than anyone has ever gone before. I think that kind of imagery really resonated with me.
Yeah, he's my favorite character. I love he's stodgy a little bit, and he's curmudgeonly, I guess is the word,
Yeah,
but he's considered kind of, without giving it away, he's this old guy in the desert, but he makes all the difference in the world.
yeah.
Do you still race at all, or do you just run for fun?
Yeah, I haven't raced in, I'd say 5 or 6 years. And so right now I'm just running for fun, but I think I do have aspirations to get back into shape. For me, I raced at, for me, a pretty good high level at one point in my career. And I guess I have this in my mind. I don't want to go out there and race unless I'm for whatever my age is,
Hmm.
in as good a shape as I can be in. It just doesn't do a lot for me to
Hmm.
just be in a race. So I'm picky that way, I guess, and so I want to feel like I'm back in shape before I go out racing again.
I think a lot of runners who were very competitive at a young age feel that way. They don't race at all because they were either burnt out, or they don't feel like they want to just go out and be in a race. That's not unusual. I've heard that from many runners who raced at a young age. It's actually pretty common.
Okay, well then
Yeah.
I don't feel so lonely.
No. But at least you probably, sometimes maybe you enjoy it more than the stress sometimes of races, just to go out and just do it for fun.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's just to be able to move through the landscape is such a great feeling. And I know trail running is very popular now. And they really do love that too. There's something about
Yeah.
that. I remember going out with a friend of mine a few years ago, and we did a section of the Appalachian Trail. We were out there for 4.5 hours.
Mm,
This is the longest run I've ever done. We weren't going fast,
no.
but that day has stuck with me and resonated quite a bit because of that feeling of just moving through the landscape, as I said, um, and not really being tired the whole way, and just it was kind of magical.
It
So,
is. And trail running is so wonderful. You can power hike up the hills and eat real food.
right? Yeah,
Exactly. If you ever do a trail race, you will be amazed at the aid stations. Real food. It's
I've done a few. Yeah,
Oh, good. So
that's
you know.
cool.
I know
Yeah.
they are really fun. It's a really good community. I just finished 50K last weekend, and it just
Oh,
and I'm not fast. I'm very slow. I'm one of the last finishers, but everyone was still there waiting for us, so that was really neat. It was really fun. Very supportive. So now, do you have any ideas for a second book?
I do. I'm working on a book right now. I'm working on a short story, and I just finished a draft of the screenplay for The Frontrunner
Nice.
that I'm working with the same person I mentioned before. And I have a really strong outline for a sequel for The Frontrunner, which so you said your favorite character is Brad Coy, and I love every one of my
Yeah.
characters in their own different way. But my favorite character, or the most interesting character for me, is Sergei Pushkin, the flawed twin runner from Russia.
Mhm.
And my thinking is that while all of the characters from the first book will be in the second book, the focus is going to be on what happened to Sergei. What
Mm,
was his life like after the events of the Frontrunner, and then how he interacts with all of the characters
mm.
going forward. So that I'm kind of excited to write that, but I'm kind of more excited to finish the other novel I'm working on right now.
Okay, that's great. So you have one novel, and then the second, uh, the follow up of the front runner. Okay, cool. Very. So you're going to be very busy.
Well, if I could quit working for a living, yes. Um, but I'm on track for that too. I think within a year I'll be done with my day job as a lawyer. It may take a little bit longer, but it'll mostly be over at that point. I'm a litigator, so I have a number of cases, and I've got to run those out till they reach their conclusion. And but then I think I'm going to shift all of my sitting down time to writing creatively.
Very good. Now there are some great moments in the book and great uh, quotes that I really like. I think one of my favorites is learn to accept, maybe even love the pain you're in, not the pain that will be. And I really like that because it's like just learn to accept what's happening. Don't fear what's going to happen.
Yep, exactly. That, and you picked out this what I people have asked me what the book's about, and I think that's the central theme. It's not pain that holds us back. It's fear of pain that holds us back in running and life and everything that we do.
Mhm.
What's around the next bend? It'll stop you in your tracks. Um, thinking about that last lap when you get to the 3/4 mark, and it doesn't matter whether it's, like I said, running or life. It's fear that holds us back. And if you can conquer that, if you can get past, as I talked about in the book, the little voice whispering in your ear, slow down. It'll be okay. Nobody will know. And then you've got to face your own self, and you've got to look yourself in the eye and be able to get past that. Which was so it's interesting you picked that particular quote out.
Well,
You,
as a
you
runner,
nailed it.
well, yeah, and as a runner, a distance runner, you have to accept the pain because the normal pain, not injury, of course, but the normal pain, it's going to hurt. The long distances are going to hurt.
Yep.
The 50K, 100K, whatever, it's not going to feel good in those, especially those last miles. It is going to hurt. So just accept it. Make it your friend. Talk to it if you want. Just like they talk, like they do in the book. Just talk to it. Say, okay, you're here. We got to be friends here because we're going to be together for a while.
Especially if you do like you do, 50 Ks.
Uh-huh.
That's amazing. I've never run that far, I don't think.
Well, a lot of it was walking, but hey, that's as long as you're within the time limit, that's all that matters.
Right.
So, how many times do you run backwards?
Oh, almost every time we go out.
Really?
Yeah, but as long as it's, you got to find a nice flat surface. Fortunately, I have not ever fallen yet. Or, but if there are potholes and problems and wherever you are, then a track is a great place to do that. And just go to the center lane um, but yeah, I try to do just a section. I think it's really great for you um, for a lot of different reasons. That came from when I was in college and I went out for cross country. We showed up, all these freshmen coming out of high school, and we met our coach. Or our coach used to be the basketball coach at the college I went to, and of course he was all into backwards running because that's what basketball players do. And he had discovered over the years that this was a great way to prevent injury for the season because it strengthens the parts of your legs and hips and knees and your ankles that don't get as much of a workout as when you're running frontwards all the time. And so he would have us for 2 weeks at the beginning of every cross country season. We'd meet on the track and we would run backwards for about 2 miles.
Oh,
We'd break it up and into intervals. Might do a half a mile at first. We built up to it, but at the end of the 2 weeks, and then we go do our regular workout on the roads or whatever. But at the end of the 2 weeks, we did a 2 mile time trial backwards and then 2 miles frontwards. And so it was, and you know what? Nobody on my team was ever injured with Achilles tendonitis, knee problems, hip problems. So we were 20 years old, but still, it's not common. And I've been fortunate. I mean, I'm 70. I'm going to be 70 years old in December.
hmm.
I don't have any, everybody's like, oh, your knees, how can you stand to run? A lot of my buddies who used to run, they can't run anymore. I I believe in backwards running.
Yeah, that's a great tip. I think there are a lot of drills, a lot of strength training that stuff that you can do to keep your body strong. That backwards running is a really good one. I think there's another exercise that a lot of the endurance runners do, karaoke or whatever it is. That one that you do sideways, that I think that's
Yep.
a really nice one too, because running is just forward, but if you get your body strong on the sideways, the backwards, that can keep everything in movement. I mean, keep everything strong so that doesn't get tired out just doing the forward.
Right.
I think
Yeah.
that's really good. So, you are a lawyer and an inventor.
Yeah. I have a few patents.
Wow.
Yep.
So, what do you have patents for?
Um, they're automotive tools, basically, or methods and tools. One of my hobbies is I have a couple of old Porsches, and adjusting the valves on an air cooled engine is a challenge for anybody who's never done it before. And the first time I did it, I thought, this is a German engineered car, and you're doing everything by feel, basically. Where's the precision, you know? So I invented a tool it's called SnapGap, is a name that I've taken it off the market now because I don't have time to promote it.
Mhm.
But I was available for 5 or 6 years. I sold a bunch of kits, and it was a fun experience. But there's that. There's a similar valve adjustment system. There's a design patent, and then I have another patent for um, a device that you put on a automotive lift so that the arms of the lift interact with the car in precisely the point that you want them without a lot of guesswork.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and that one, my son and I are developing some prototypes, and I hope to go to the market with that eventually.
That is amazing. Those are really important things too. I mean, they don't seem like it, but they are when you need them for sure.
Yeah.
So, is there enough time in the day for you to do everything you like?
Not really. I kind of feel like like I said, I'm going to be 70 soon, and I'm a little concerned the runway is getting shorter and shorter.
Mhm.
But what I love to do, what I'm currently passionate about, is the writing. I am running because I always have run, and I can't help but do that. It's just part of my DNA at this point. And like I said, my wife is very creative. She's an actress, so I love being involved in her world, and she's been a great supporter. In fact, she is the audio. So there's an audio book version of the Frontrunner.
Yeah.
She did the audio book. There are 50 different characters, believe it or
Yeah.
not, that who she had to voice, men, women, Russians, and I was just so fortunate when she accepted my request that she be the narrator, and I just think she did an amazing job. So that creative world is the world I'd like to spend most of my time in, and the the car hobby and things like that have kind of fallen by the wayside at this point.
Yeah, I can't say I blame you. That sounds terrific. What a fabulous way to spend your time.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
now I have one last question for you that I like to ask all my runners. If you could do any race anywhere, regardless of qualification, time, travel, which race would you like to do?
A particular race.
Yeah.
Ah, um, Probably a maybe the National Masters Mile competition, wherever it might be held.
That
If
sounds
I could, I love running fast, and for 70 years old, running a mile is running fast if you do it well. So yeah, I don't have any aspirations to do like the Chicago Marathon or some of the more like beta breakers or anything. A good highly competitive track race would be fun.
Yeah, that would be fun. It would be fun to watch. I actually would love to travel to watch that sometime, wherever it is. It would be
Yeah,
fun to watch that. Very fun.
I got to
Lots
go
of,
to the Olympic trials this past June,
oh,
and
how
really
cool.
loved that up in Eugene. It was such
Oh,
a great
how
experience.
fun. How fun. Well, that would be really, really terrific if you could do that sometime. I say I love to get different responses and they're almost all different. Everyone wants to do something different, and some of them are very unusual, which I love. I love people's creativity or what their dreams. It's really cool. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you on the show, and best of luck to everything because I can't wait to read your next book and the book after that, and all and everything that you have coming out. And really appreciate your time with us. So
Well,
have a
thank you, Luther.
and
Yeah,
yeah,
thank you
and
for inviting me. I enjoyed it very much.
well, that's terrific. And you have a great rest of your day.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you so much for joining me, Brad. You are a terrific author. You're very, very talented writer and a great runner. I can't wait to see what you have next. I can't wait to see if there's a movie. I can't wait for the second book in the series of The Frontrunner. That will be spectacular. But you do have to read this book, The Frontrunner. It's an excellent book. I will have a link on the website for you to use to get your copy because you really should read it. It is terrific. Probably the best fictional running book since The Loneliness of the Long Distance Runner, which is an excellent, excellent book. It's another fictional running book if you want to read a classic running book about running. That is a great, great book to read. Okay, now, I don't have a lot to say except that I've gone back to the gym and started doing treadmill running 1 or 2 days a week. I'm only doing it 1 day a week now after Thursdays. On Thursdays, it's it's a very long day, not kind of, a very long day for me. I work 12 hours and then I go to the gym and run a couple miles on the treadmill. I've only started with 2 miles because I have to get used to the treadmill. 2 miles is like 20. I swear to God, it just, I have to get used to it. I don't hate it, but it's not what I'm used to. So I have to get myself accustomed to the treadmill. But it's nice to get those miles out and it's nice to get the practice out so I don't go 2 days without any kind of exercise at all. When I get home, I'm tired, but I'm still jacked up, so I have to stay up a little later. So by Friday, I'm exhausted and it's another 12-hour day at work. So it's a long, long week. This week I worked all weekend and I was exhausted. Oh my goodness. Last night I was so tired. So I had plans and I canceled them because I was just too tired. I knew I couldn't go out. I knew if I went out, I wouldn't enjoy it. So I just canceled everything. And that's how it is sometimes. I choose my rest over going out. And that probably means I'm OLD. I remember the old days when I was younger and could get by on 2 and 3 hours of sleep. You can't do that anymore. I choose not to do that anymore anyway. Also got a lot sicker in those days too, and I don't get sick now, so that's the difference. This week's song is an oldie but a goodie. It's by the Allman Brothers. I love to run to the Allman Brothers. I always have an Allman Brothers song on my playlist when I run. They're just perfect running music. And this song is probably my favorite Allman Brothers song. It's called Revival. It's a really, really great song to run by, or to run to, I should say. So I'm going to have a link to that, to the YouTube video for it, so you can check it out if you haven't heard it, if you're not familiar with them. So you can put it on your playlist if you want. And it's just a really nice upbeat song. It's a lot of fun, and it'll get you through some tough times in your running, in your training, if you need something to get you through and to get you moving. All right, so that is it. And everything is, like I said, is on the website, MarthaRunsTheWorld.com. And until next week, let's tie up our shoelaces and go for a run.